Paul Crowther was sentenced after pleading guilty to the manslaughter by diminished responsibility of Bethany Fields, who was 21, in an attack in Huddersfield in September 2019. Leeds Crown Court accepted the plea of manslaughter by reason of diminished responsibility following the submission of expert psychiatric reports. Court today determined the 36-year-old will be detained in a mental health facility, and he was jailed for life with a minimum term of 12 years, minus the time on remand. If the hospital order is no longer necessary, he will be transferred to prison to serve the remainder of his sentence. Emergency services were called to Fitzwilliam Street during the early hours of September the 12th to a report that a woman had been seriously injured in an incident there. On attending, police and paramedics located Bethany, who had suffered a fatal stab wound injury at the scene. Inquiries quickly determined that her former partner, Paul Crowther, was responsible, and he was located and arrested shortly afterwards. DCI Heather Wariski, the senior investigating officer in the case, said, "This has been a heartbreaking case in which a hugely talented young woman who was so full of life, has been denied the chance of a glittering future." Mr. Crowther confronted Bethany in the street and then brutally assaulted her in what was a truly horrific attack in front of witnesses, many whom were left traumatized. Despite the attempts of bystanders to save her, the savage injuries Mr. Crowther inflicted led to her passing away before any medical team could arrive. His assault has taken the life of a remarkable young woman and left scars on her family, which we have been told today will never heal. A woman who pummeled the notorious serial killer Rose West in prison has been jailed again for 12.5 years after stabbing a man in the street with the help of her female lover. Mother of two, Julie McAllister, who was 44, and her partner, Candice Tote, who was 47, were both armed when they confronted the victim in Newcastle, in November last year after searching the streets for him. It remains unclear what the background of the trouble was. Newcastle Crown Court heard that Miss McAllister swung her knife at the man, but he deflected the blow and disarmed her before a bystander intervened and knocked her over. Miss Tote, who had brandished her weapon in support of her girlfriend, was then knocked away by the same bystander. The court heard that within seconds, Miss McAllister went for the victim again, but he managed to take the knife from her and used it to slash her stomach. Miss Tote then handed Miss McAllister another knife, which she used to inflict a serious stab wound on the man. Court heard that the victim also suffered from rib fractures and lung bruising. His blood pressure and oxygen saturation were unrecordable when he arrived at the hospital, and he needed blood products, a chest drain, and surgery. He also developed complications from a lung infection. Miss McAllister of Bolingbroke Street, Biker, admitted wounding with intent. Miss Tote of Cumberland House, Westgate Road, Newcastle, admitting threatening another with a knife in a fray. Mr. Recorder Whitehead sentencing Mr. McAllister, who had previous convictions for violence, to 12.5 years behind bars with a 4-year extended licence period to protect the public. He said the victim was left close to death, and he told Miss McAllister, "You were determined on to keep attacking him until either you were stopped or he was seriously injured or worse." The judge said the confrontation was like a knife fight in public and sentenced Miss Tote to 21 months suspended for 2 years with rehabilitation requirements. The court heard that both women had troubled backgrounds and had been in a long-term relationship. In March 2017, Miss McAllister said she attacked Rose West in jail because she was sick of the amount of fan mail the child killer was getting from admirers. She is said to have pummeled Miss West repeatedly in her face during the vicious attack at Durham's HMP Low Newton. Miss West, who is serving life in prison for killing 10 children, was left with a black eye and facial swelling after being pinned down and beaten repeatedly. Miss McAllister told the newspaper, "West's got a fan club and she gets the most fan mail. She walks around the jail like she owns it. I got sick of it, so I cracked her one. She is a horrible, vile woman. The fact she still gets fan mail shows that there are some really sick people out there." A woman trying to smuggle items into prison has now put herself behind bars. Christina Mullen of Wines has been locked up after being caught trying to transfer goods into a custodial setting. She was foiled, however, in her attempts and was later charged by the police with 5 counts of conveying a prohibited article into prison. Her case was heard before Liverpool Crown Court on Friday 21st of April, where she was sentenced to an immediate imprisonment by the judge. The court heard how the 52-year-old Miss Mullen committed the offences on February the 19th last year. The Wines resident attended HMP Risley in possession of goods which are prohibited in custody. A range of items are banned from prison, either due to safety reasons or whether they could be used to commit further offences behind bars, for example. The defendant was found to be attempting to convey 3 List A items into Warrington Road Prison and 2 categorised as List B. The 2 List A items were cannabis resin, cocaine and diamorphine, while the List B items were 2 mobile phones. Miss Mullen of Albert Roads, Warrant, was convicted of the offences when she appeared at Liverpool Crown Court and was sentenced to 20 months in prison.